It's why people loathe you. I mean, some people do loathe you.
Yes, some people do.
But do you understand why? Do you think what you're doing is helpful for Western democracy?
Maybe some people do loathe me. And that's probably true. I don't care. But the fact that 250 million people follow me is that I think a lot more people actually like me than don't, and I think a lot more people hate you and the media more than you realize. So the shoe is on the other foot. They hate you. They hate you far more than they hate me.
Hands down, that was the most relatable thing this man has ever done. And I'm not talking about whether he's right or wrong in the situation, okay?
Get off my back.
I'm talking about the way that he responded to what he felt like was an attack. And if you've ever had someone unfairly judge you and you lost your cool, shut down, or stumbled over your word because you felt scrutinized,
but the fact that
then you've done it too. You got defensive, and you're probably like, yeah, okay, getting defensive is wrong and we shouldn't do it, kumbaya. But has anyone ever told you that those moments of accusations are actually an emerald mine for changing people's perception of you in your favor? Yet all we're told is, don't be defensive. It's not a good thing. Be patient, be understanding. Of course, be good, don't be bad. But we're not told just how powerful these moments can be. Defensiveness intensifies people's existing perception of you. The ones that dislike you even more, and the ones that like you continue to defend you even more. But Elon is the richest human being alive, so the only cost is his sanity. He can be defensive and still do whatever he wants. But non-celebrities like you and I, on the other hand, the downside of being defensive is way more severe. Because a lot of these acts of suspicion can come from strangers, bosses, colleagues, and we don't have fans to defend us. So how we're perceived in those moments are crucial because very real things are at stake. But what if you had a specific skill that allows you to turn these very moments into a net positive for how you're perceived? Let me show you someone who has this skill.
Really false of you to claim that people are focusing their life on dying, when really all of us are focusing on surviving. That's why we're here. We don't go to McDonald's and think, oh, this is killing me. We go to McDonald's because we don't have enough time in the day to make dinner. What does you, a person who's rich, who doesn't know what struggle is like, have to add to us as humanity?
Yeah. Hi, Chelsea.
Hey.
Yeah, I grew up with 4 other siblings, single mom. My mother made my clothes because we didn't have enough money for her to buy clothes for me. I didn't have money my entire life. I became an entrepreneur. I struggled for 14 years with no money whatsoever. So I understand what it feels like to have no money. I know what it feels like to be poor. So I've been through that. I also was chronically depressed for 10 years. I wanted to commit suicide desperately. I really would have committed suicide had it not been for my 3 kids. I felt like I had a responsibility to them. So I understand struggle. I understand pain. I was 50 pounds overweight. I was in a terrible shape. And so I understand what it's like to be that way. My argument is not to criticize you or anyone else. What I'm arguing is that companies have built their products to make you addicted and to make you ill. That's the core thing I'm trying to say.
Now I want you to look at how that changes how Brian Johnson is perceived. The people who didn't like him in the past are starting to change their mind about him. His response converts people, but the fatal flaw that most people assume is that response is just a product of being a good, patient person. But plenty of calm, genuinely good people are disliked and can convert anyone. No, it's that patient, calm, good person is how people perceive the output of this skill. So what is this skill? I want you to take a look at Elon and Brian's answers. Now, Elon's answer signals that he's failed to analyze his critics and classifies all of them as incompetent.
You support not just the populist right, but the far right. In fact, very fringe parties in some countries.
No, I support the normal people.
Okay.
What you call the far right, falsely.
You think is the normal person. Okay.
Yes.
My intentions and your opinion of my intentions clash. Therefore, you're wrong. Brian's answer signals that he's analyzed the negative criticism. He seems to have accurately extracted how he's perceived by her, and he compares that with his intention to diagnose where the mismatch could be, and maybe if he's miscalculated his own actions. In this case with this woman, number 1, he reconstructed the information she seems to have about him and how she feels about it, thinking, well, if I were looking at a privileged person who never suffered a day in his life, going around preaching about his $2 million health routine, wanting to live forever, and blaming people for poisoning themselves because they're lazy, yeah, I would dislike that person too. So he identifies that mismatch and goes, oh, you're talking about that person. Let me tell you a little bit about me. And then He uses all the grievances that she described to reconstruct her experience, which reveals to him in a pain point they both share. And he actually gets her to nod and agree, which you'd never think that someone that heated would be capable of doing that to someone who they just deemed the devil reincarnate just a few moments ago. And people love that. They're drawn to those who have developed the skill to reconstruct many different points of views and identify that gap that's causing mistrust. Those who view every misperception as a math problem to be solved. But here's the kicker. That skill is actually invisible to them. They never see the reconstruction, they only see its output. They see you thinking before you speak and they perceive patience, when it's actually you reconstructing those perspectives in your head. They hear you identifying the gap. You come off as a great communicator. They hear you describe a viewpoint that you've reconstructed, and you come off as a good person who can lead. Now, the biggest problem here is that unlike celebrities, non-celebrities, like everyday people, don't have a never-ending slew of comments and articles about what people think available to them. So they assume they don't have a perception problem. They assume that there's no gap, that people see them as the person that they present, but it's far from it. You see, the judgment is still there, but it stays in people's head and comes out through their actions. For people like us, judgment is the silent consequences. When you don't get promoted, when you don't get the job, when you're told you need more presence, when a friend pulls away, when a date ghosts you, the way someone responds to you in a group, how your boss manages you or talks about your progress. These are all signals on how people perceive you and what signals you're giving off, oftentimes without even realizing it. And the few times you do get the obvious signal, say when someone seriously misunderstands you at work and vocalizes it, your loved ones encourage you to defend yourself, not to find the gap. So now you have a lifetime of moments that are clues on how people perceive you. And if you don't know how to analyze them and extract those viewpoints, you find yourself in recurring cycles. Your job is just one cycle of being passed over for a role or distrust by your team. Your relationship is just one cycle of never feeling truly seen and maybe even slightly taken advantage of. So this isn't a nice to have skill. It's a skill that changes major outcomes in life for you. And that is what this whole channel is for. I'm going to teach you this skill. How to reconstruct the way people are reading you, how to spot the signals you're giving off without knowing it. But I'll be upfront about this catch. You'll get good at running this skill on other people way faster than doing it for yourself. Because your own signals don't feel like signals to you. Your tone, habits, it's all felt normal to you for so long that your brain stopped noticing it years ago. Brian Johnson gets to find out exactly how he's perceived because there's thousands of strangers lining up to tell him to his face. You don't get that. So you get the silent consequences. And a brain that can't see its own blind spot, well, that's what makes it a blind spot, right? Here's what that looks like at work. You've been passed over more than once. And all the feedback you got was something vague like work on your executive presence. We need to see more leadership from you. You should raise your visibility. Or my favorite, we feel like you're not really pulling your weight or doing enough. Meanwhile, you're working your ass off. And that's the part that stings, right? It's not how they think your work is bad. It's that somewhere along the way you carry yourself, the way you talk about your work, the way you show up, got read as something that you're not. Someone in that promotion meeting described you in one sentence and you will never get to hear it. And that's what a perception audit is these one-on-one 90-minute calls where I go through the actual cycles in your life and break down how people are responding to you, how you are being managed, where things keep stalling, and we decode what signals you're giving off and how you're actually being read. You'll leave knowing the specific ways you're being misread in plain language, the sentence nobody at work will say to you. And so if that sounds interesting, go to theperceptionaudit.com and make sure it has the word "the" in it because it looks like someone already snatched perceptionaudit.com and just didn't do squat with it, just waiting for a chump like me to offer $5,000. Anyways, yes, okay, theperceptionaudit.com. People are reading you this week in meetings, in interviews, in rooms you're not in, and the only question is whether you will ever find out what they're saying.